Welcome to the Jackson Rudolph podcast. I'm your host, Jackson Rudolph, and this is episode 139. And ladies and gentlemen, the most special episode we've had yet. We've had a ton of amazing guests come on the show. I'm so grateful for the experiences that I've had being able to share my story and the story of so many others with the sport karate community through this platform here on Sport Karate Zone, thanks to Century Martial Arts as well. But really, that there's very, very few people that you could make an argument are as influential to our sport and certainly to our team, Paul Mitchell, as the man that has been very, very generous with his time today to come on the show. And that is none other than one of the co-founders of John Paul Mitchell Systems, and of course, one of the co-founders of Team Paul Mitchell Martial Arts, Mr. John Paul DeJoria. Sir, thank you so much for taking the time. And I want to open the show by just giving you a chance to say hi to everybody and tell a little bit about yourself for anybody that's living under a rock and it isn't up to speed on who you are.
Hi, I'm just me. I'm just a common person. In fact, the best way to explain it is when I received the Lone Sailor Award in Washington, D.C., in front of all the admirals and generals and everything else several years ago. They asked me to explain to everybody how I could associate my military experience in the United States Navy with what I'm doing today. And it was so easy to do. And that was this, that when I went into the Navy, I was just graduated from high school and went into active duty. I was in the reserves while I was in high school. They let you join when you were 17 in the reserves. But what I got out of it was this, that I was just a regular, ordinary person. I wasn't a straight A student, so I couldn't get any scholarships to college, just a regular person. However, when I was in the Navy, they taught us how to work as a team together of ordinary people. But because we worked together as a team, we experienced and we got extraordinary results. And that's what I realized, the power of teamwork. Like, I'm an ordinary person, I'm not a college graduate. They had me operating the gyros on an aircraft carrier. I mean, that was pretty cool, right? I'm just a normal person. So I come from a background a single mom, deadbeat dad. When we were 2 years old, he split. So that wasn't there. My brother and I worked from very, very young ages. We always had a job, whether it's a morning paper route or an after school job, and kind of worked our way up and just had a very loving family and a very positive mom that was very, very good. We didn't have anything, but we didn't know it because we didn't have a TV set to see what everybody else was doing. Anyways, it was a unique way of living. It was a whole different time. In my day, you love to work. Everyone wanted a job to work. Today, it's a hard time getting people sometimes to work. A little different time, but we were very happy. And then after the Navy, I had a series of jobs. My dream when I was in high school, because I had to build my own car in high school. I had to build it. We didn't have any money to buy a car. So we took this 52 Ford with a blown engine. And in high school, I took auto shop. I rebuilt the thing again. So I had a car to be able to drive around. And to me, that was wonderful. I had a car. Even though I built it off a junker, I had a car. Went to the Navy, had a variety of jobs. And my goal was, God, if only I could make $150 a week and drive a car, I'd be so happy. But remember, this is the early 1960s, okay? It's not like it is today. I'm a World War II baby. I was born during World War II. So the times were a little bit different there. Anyways, as time went on, I worked for a few companies, and then I actually ended up starting my own company, John Paul Mitchell Systems. But I have a book about this that could be interesting for your viewers to read. You could get it now through an advance order on Amazon. They're taking advance orders. It's coming out early next year. It's called Success Unshared is Failure. John Paul DeJoria, Success Unshared is Failure. But it's all about how I started Paul Mitchell, the hair care company, which has been supporting martial arts longer than any company, as I believe sponsored any sports of any kind. We started it with no money. Our backer pulled out. How in the world do you start a business with no money and it becomes the largest of its type on a global basis? Patron tequila was the same thing. We didn't know anything about tequila or the liquor industry, but yet we started and became the biggest of its type in the entire planet. Well, a lot of these things have to do with growing up, knowing how to never give up, and learning along the way. You're going to get a lot of rejection, but if you know you're going to get a lot of rejection and it comes, it's not going to affect you as much as all of a sudden someone rejects you for something, closes the door in your face, tells you it's a bad idea, tell you you're too fat, you're too stupid, you don't dress well, tell you anything. You're going to get rejection in life. And again, when you know you're going to get it and you get it, you don't get pissed off. You know, hey, it's some of the rejection I'm going to get. Everything's going to be okay. That's just part of it, the growing up process. Getting into martial arts, that was wonderful. I believe that Team John Paul Mitchell Systems is the oldest team ever sponsored by a single sponsor in any type of sports. And of course, ours was martial arts. I believe we've been at it for about 38 or 39 years with the same team and very proud of it.
Yes, sir. And to be a part of that legacy is one of the greatest honors of my life. And that's really a testament to what was built with this team. And we're going to get into the origin story of Team Paul Mitchell Martial Arts and how it came to be. I love the fact that you plugged that book, and I love the title of the book because that's something that comes up in virtually every team meeting is that quote of yours, success unshared is failure. Because that's one of the unique things about sport karate is that it's a very individual sport. We go out there and do a performance by ourselves. We go out there and spar by
Exactly.
ourselves, but it's all trying to uplift the team, and it's the team that's got your back. When you're out there as the solo performer, it's all of your teammates that are banging on the side of the stage and cheering you on.
That's right.
That's pushing you to reach that next goal. But
But
before
it's,
we
you
get,
say
yeah,
it's
yes, sir, go
reaching,
ahead.
yeah, it's like reaching your goal. And I should be interviewing you. Are you kidding? You reached the top of you've the top of the medical industry, martial arts industry, college graduate. I mean, my God, your life is like a wonder. It's like a true American dream come true. I should be interviewing you.
Well, I'm very blessed, sir, and that's very kind. But I think one of the big things that I want to get out of this is, and by the way, for anybody that wants to do a deeper dive on Mr. DeJoria and hear more of his story, in addition to checking out that book, there's a documentary, Good Fortune, that's available online that is phenomenal. Does a great job of laying everything out. And then, sir, before we transition to the karate talk, I just want to kind of give you that opportunity as well to talk about the early days of the hair care company itself, John Paul Mitchell Systems.
Sure,
There's some great stories told in Good Fortune that, again, everybody can check out at more length after the show's over.
sure.
Just talking about all of the principles that you've already introduced, right? The perseverance and the resiliency to get to where you ultimately made it to.
I'll be very happy to, especially in industry we have no money. So I've been working for a few companies in the professional beauty industry with the management title. I was national manager of several divisions of one of them, and vice president of another. But in the industry, I wanted to start my own business. So I had a very good friend named Paul Mitchell. He was a hairdresser. I'm not. Business, marketing, sales, that's me. Hairdresser was him. But I've been in the hairdressing industry for hairdressers with companies I worked for. So we said, let's start our own company and we'll get somebody to put up the money. And this is 1980, actually 79, 80, going to 1980. We'll get someone to put up the money. We could do it with $500,000. I could figure out how to do it with just that much money and we'll be great. We'll give that person 40% of the business and my partner, Paul, and I will do 30% each. We still have control and we're in business. Yay, because we had no money. The backer, the very last day, pulled out. That day, I'd gone down the hill from where I lived. I wasn't getting along well with my wife, so I left her the better car and my daughter and plenty of money for a few months and took the used car down the hill to get the money. The money never came in. And my partner, Paul, came on over and he wanted some money too. He's older than I was. There was no money. So I said, Paul, how much can you afford to put in? He said, well, 350 bucks. I said, oh my God, I only have a couple $100 in my pocket. I left everything behind. And I was going to check into a hotel here, one of these efficiency places for a while. And now I'm going to have to live in my car because I'm too proud to tell my mom I'm down and out, you know? So anyways, the money never came in. And when I got a hold of the guy who was putting up the money, or the one representing him, I should say, it was Mr. Dick Holdhouse who represented him. He said, JP, here's why he pulled out. This is 1980 now. Inflation in the United States was 12.5%. Unemployment in the United States was 10.5%. A loan, if you could get a loan, right? The lowest rate was 17% interest, if you can imagine that. This is 80 and 81. And we waited in line for gasoline. Worst time in the world to start any kind of a business, much worse than anything since that time that we've ever been through. But we did anyways, 'cause we believed in what we did. I went around and nobody would carry our line because we had no money, no advertising, no promotion, and we had no staff, only Paul and me. That was it. So how did I create a business? We knew our products were really, really good. We had two shampoos, one for normal to chemically treated hair or fine hair, another one for normal to really thick or heavy hair or oily hair. And we had a conditioner that was our magic one. You left it in your hair and it helped protect it against blow dryers and just did amazing things. And it neutralized chemicals in your hands at the same time. So we had some really good things to go with. One shampoo instead of two. It was so good, you didn't have to shampoo your head twice. Saves you time and money. And then we invented something called sculpting lotion that you put on your hair. You could go straight with it, or you could do with your fingers, put waves in your hair, whatever you want. It was pretty remarkable. So I went door to door. In fact, it was in Los Angeles. I went up Ventura Boulevard where there's a beauty salons everywhere, knocked door to door to try and sell my product. It took me more than a week to get 12 orders. I think anywhere from $25 to about $130. That was it. But they did not fill out the top line on who it was made out to, and I delivered the products on the spot. So how do I get a distributor? I knew number one, the distributor is not going to want to pay me right away, and I needed the money badly. So what do I do there? Well, immediately I thought if I could give them an extra discount, maybe I get the money right away. So whatever the distributor's price was, I increased everything by 5% above what I really wanted, 5% above it. So I walked into this one place called Parasace Beauty Supply in Los Angeles. It was the biggest distributor in Los Angeles. And I presented our nice products to this wonderful man named Jim Hendrietta, who was president. And I said, here's our products. They're unique, they're special. And, I'd like to be here, having you as a distributor. I'll work with your people to sell them. And he looked at me and he says, do you have any advertising money? I said, no. Do you have any customers? I said, well, I'm working on those right now. Yes. He says, well, but do you have a whole bunch of them already? And how many people do you have in the field? Well, just me. So you have no money, you have no advertising, no promotion, just you, period. And a line that has only a few products nobody knows about. He says, you're a nice man. You're really, really nice, Aaron. I wish you well, but no, we're Parasace, the biggest beauty supply house there is. We can't build your line for you, but thanks for coming by. Unless there's some other reason you want to tell me I should take this, it's really nice meeting you. I said, yes, there is. One more. I've been saving it. Out of my pocket, I pulled 12 checks. I put them in front of him, 12 checks. I said, that's the reason you should take it. There's your first 12 customers, and I've already sold them for you. I've already delivered the product. All you do is put Parasace Beauty Supply in. He laughed his head off and said, oh my God, what a presentation. He goes, okay. I said, look, because we were hard up. I said, if you will only buy $2,000 worth of my product, which is nothing in the beauty industry, believe me, $2,000 worth, you could have the exclusive one on all of LA County and surrounding areas. We really want to, he laughed and said, I said, okay, but you better be here. I said, well, there's one more thing too. We're new, we're starting out. Can I have the $2,000 when the product is delivered? He said, are you kidding? We're Parasace Beauty Supply. We don't pay our bills for 45 days, and you're no different than anybody else. I said, well, how about this? What if I give you a 5% discount immediately on it? He laughed and said, I said, okay, I'll do that for you. There was my money. We invited him to our 25th year anniversary, which was 20 years ago. And Jim said, you know what? This JP guy comes in, shows me the product, and leaves. Nice man. Within 3 minutes, my warehouse is calling me and saying, hey, there's some guy here unloading on our loading dock some hair care products, wants a check for $2,000. He laughed his head off, came back, handed me the check, and that was some of the ways we got going. With Patron, no one wanted to take it. Anyone that tasted Patron, it was the best tequila they have ever had in their life, the best they've ever had. But it was $37.95 a bottle in 1989. The average tequila was probably around $5 a bottle for the average tequila. Very expensive, but the best. No one wanted to take it. So we finally had to talk somebody into taking it. It was a wine company. All they did was sell wine. and we talked him into taking it. Well, after a year, all they sold was 1,000 cases, which wasn't very many at all. So we dropped him and took on a great big company with a big name in the whiskey business, where we give them a piece of it. They in return would, give a piece to distributors all the way down the line. So we brought in one more layer. And after about a year and a half, they only sold about 12,000 cases. We thought we could do 50,000 cases because we were that good. Anyways, he said, guys, I'm going to be honest with you. You have the best tequila in the world, the head of this company said, but you'll never sell more than 20,000 cases a year because it's so expensive. It's $37.95 a bottle, but it is the best, there's no question. So we dropped them. We went with another big distributor. They took us all the way up to 40,000 cases a year. We knew we could do better. We bought them out of their contract, took over ourselves. So an idea, if somebody tells you what you're doing or what your product's all about and you don't agree with them, don't continue on. That product that was never supposed to sell more than 20,000 cases a year, according to a great big company in the industry that knew everything about it, when I sold Patron a little over 7 years ago, we had about 3,500,000 cases of Patron, cases of 12 we were selling. So a little lesson learned. If somebody tells you about yourself personally or a product you have or what you want to come across, and it's not what you want to hear, don't believe in the experts sometimes. They don't know. Believe in yourself and your gut feeling. It's the same in martial arts. That way was so interesting. You're really competing against yourself, but you've got a whole team showing you how to do it. And you got to believe in yourself no matter what anyone says. Hey, they're bigger than I am. They're more experienced than I am. You got to know yourself. What you have is really good and really right, and you go forward with it.
Absolutely. And such a beautiful story and such great lessons learned. And I love how well it applies not only to martial arts as a whole, but to sport karate. For forms and weapons competitors tuning in, this is exactly the type of trial that we go through when, especially in the creative and extreme, where you're making your own routines. It's very easy and very common when you first start competing that judges may not think that what you're doing is the right way to go about it. That was certainly true for me. But if you believe in your product, in other words, you believe in the type of performance that you're putting together and you just continue to perfect it and innovate and improve that, then ultimately everybody's going to see the greatness in that as long as you have put in the work to perfect that craft. And so I
You
think that
so
the parallelism is beautiful.
You are so right. The first time I saw Christina Rodriguez
Yeah.
ever lift her whole body off the ground, flat on the ground, but lift the whole body an inch off and have a sword go underneath her, I was blown away. How could any human being do that? That's impossible. But no, it's not impossible because nobody told her it was impossible, did they?
Absolutely. And one more thing before we transition to the karate talk is I've got to say, going through some of the history of the Paul Mitchell Company, I feel like is so important for martial arts fans tuning in to understand, especially as Team Paul Mitchell rolls into next year with some new apparel repping the Awapui plant. What we're so proud to be able to represent that as part of our logo, to represent some new logo design coming from corporate, and really just show our appreciation for everything that the company has done for us, as well as the fact that, we want to share the story of, it's not just that, hey, JP and Steve Babcock were buddies and so everything worked out. But there's more to it than that. There's a mission here and there's a purpose and there's an alignment between values that is really important. And that is the perfect transition to the story that I think everybody wants to hear. They've heard me tell it secondhand from stories that Steve has told me, and they've heard Steve tell it on this podcast. But the early days of the karate team, right? That is the most common question I get when I introduce myself to people and I say, hey, I used to be a competitive martial artist. Now I coach. We're sponsored by the Paul Mitchell Hair Product Company. And everybody stops me and says, you're sponsored by what? How did that happen? Right. And so I want to hear it from you, sir. What is that story of Steve Babcock, first and foremost, how the two of you met, but then how does that relationship evolve? And then eventually he comes to you and says, let's start a karate team.
Yeah, it was in Rhode Island. I was married at the time, and my wife was from Rhode Island, so I spent a lot of time in Rhode Island. And I met Steve there. He was a member of the family. I mean, he knew the family very, very well. They knew him very well. Just a really nice guy. So we just kind of hit it off. They're in Rhode Island as kind of buddies going along. And then along the way, he told me what he wanted to accomplish. He had a little space there that he was working on to have his own little dojo there. And then we chatted, and little by little, it turned out that, hey, yeah, why don't Paul Mitchell give this a try? Let's give it a try. We like the sport of martial arts. I think for any boy or girl in this world, it teaches them confidence and keeps a lot of battles from happening because you know you're good and you protect yourself. You don't go around pushing people around, or if someone's going to want to push you around. You can stand your ground without hurting them, knowing you could hurt them if you wanted to, but you really don't want to. It builds that confidence. What a great thing. And it's a sport, and all young people get in, especially if you have no money, you get in a sport like this, which is so great. So one thing led to another, and Steve said, JP, I'm putting this team together. And of course, we had Mr. Rodriguez also as a co-coach with him. What do you think of Paul Mitchell's sponsor? It was kind of along those lines, and I thought it was a great idea. We started with a little bit of money and gradually built it up, built it up. And then I went to a couple events. I thought how exciting it was, and we just continue to build from there.
Mhm. That's awesome. And at what point, because as you mentioned, when you start this out, it's just a little bit of money and hey, let's try this. This sounds like a good idea. Obviously, looking back on it now, what was created was this, martial arts empire and this team that's been around for almost 40 years and has shattered all of the records that teams can possess in this sport. At
Correct.
what point did you realize that this wasn't just a project or a fun little thing to do? At what point did you realize that this actually had some momentum to be a great team and not just a team?
Well, after several years of being in business with the team, I went to several of the shows that they had, several competitions, and found out how good they really, really were. And that we were still competing there, doing really, really good. And we were only a few years in business. And then I noticed that on the team, we had maybe a Chinese person, Hispanic person, a black person, Caucasians, almost like a little United Nations. I thought, this is so cool. I love this. And then I paid more attention to it. And Julie Sowell and Brooks Parson, mainly Julie Sowell, she's the key person who headed up my sports marketing, really got involved heavily with it and saw just what the results were and how we could use this to spread the word among young people that you could do your very, very best. And of course, your hair could look the very best at the same time. All these things kind of ball together.
Yes, sir. And one thing that I believe in strongly is that stories are best told when you focus on the people because it's the people that really matter. It's the
That's
people that makes it important that we're part of a team and that will pass the stories down for years to come. And so as we tell the story of the team, I want to fixate on a couple of key individuals that we've already name dropped here. But let's start with Coach Rodriguez, right? Steve comes to you, wants to make the team, and then he says, "Hey, we've got this guy to be head coach," and it's Coach Don Rodriguez. Talk about your first opportunity meeting him and any fun Coach Rodriguez stories over the years.
Yeah, sure. Coach Hart is just a great guy. My goodness. When I first met him, I believe it was in Rhode Island by Stephen introduced him to me. And I saw him, and he wasn't like, the most cut person in the world, all trimmed out. He was, not quite that cut, but he was so damn good. It was unbelievable, but showed me that it's not just the shape of the person or the size of the person, it's the knowledge and the efficiency, especially when you teach somebody else how to do it really, really well. And it turned out that one girl that blew me away, Christina, was his wife. So, he was really involved with the whole family there, which was super. And he was just a really nice, down to earth guy and really wanted to have a championship team. And by that time, we were winning a whole lot of things. So I thought he's a good guy. And seeing him getting with the team, seeing him actually training the team and being there with him, cheering him on, showed me this guy really cares about it all. He's a good man.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that we as players all loved about Coach is that it didn't matter. Coach obviously goes back in the day and everybody knows him as sitting in the coach's chair for the sparring.
Yep.
But forms and weapons athletes, we loved him too because he was always ringside. He was always there. I remember on multiple occasions, just kind of sitting, waiting on my turn to go compete. And I'd be next to Coach and he'd be giving me words of wisdom and getting me ready to go. And it really is just a testament to how great he was all around as a martial artist. And to your point, as a man, just wanting to help out and the passion that he brought to what we did as a team.
That's
And I want to transition another person that you mentioned, somebody that became hugely involved with the team. She was involved with the team from the moment that I got recruited back in 2012. She had already been involved. But of course, that's Julie Sowald, who,
that.
the team does not continue to develop the way that it did, over those 20 or so years without Julie, right? And
Oh,
so I
no
want to
way,
give you an
no way.
opportunity to give Julie her flowers.
No way. Julie, exceptional. She would tell me all the time what's going on. And then each year she'd come and say, JP, let's give them a little more money. Then they can enter this and this. And she just kept me updated. She is a princess and I love her. She's dearly, just wonderful lady. Cannot give her enough credit.
Absolutely. And one of the innovations that Julie helped kind of usher in for any of our viewers that may not know this, and then, of course, sir, if you have any thoughts on it, I'd love to hear it. But Julie was one of the leaders responsible for making team synchronized forms and weapons a thing in this sport. To have two or three people on stage at the same time performing simultaneously, that was something that wasn't previously seen in forms and weapons competition. And so that's why when you're at tournaments today, particularly the US Open, and you hear, an event introduced as this is the Team Paul Mitchell Synchronized Forms Championship. That's not just because we win it all the time. That's because it's actually, the company that is responsible for help implementing that division into the sport.
You know how Julie did that? We had a big event that we have in Las Vegas almost every year where 3,000 of the top hairstylists come in. We have the best entertainment in the world there, right? And one year she said, JP, let's bring in our karate team. We're going to put a little exhibition on. She arranged all, got them there. And I think the first time the synchronization ever happened was in front of 3,000 people. They loved it. They clapped, they yelled, they jumped up and down. So there were several other times we brought the whole team in again. They're magnificent. And so, yeah, she made it its place. She made it something very popular, very entertaining, and standing ovations. It was fabulous.
Absolutely. And we can't talk about Julie without talking about who she would pass the torch to and also became a huge part of the team, was beloved by all the athletes, and that is Kalina. And so I also, just like we talk about Julie, I want to give you a chance to talk about Kalina and how great she was in her years of involvement with the team.
Kalina was very, very good, but Julie gets 99% of all the Julie added girl. Yeah, she was good. No doubt about it. But Julie's the one that put that whole thing together. I got to give her the credit. Later on, her daughter came on board, but man, she's the one that really got it going good. And of course, her daughter followed in her footsteps, but Julie was the one that really got it going.
Absolutely. And so now I want to transition to, we've talked about it already, those performances in Vegas. I've heard stories from former team members about trips going to Malibu and performing there.
On the
I
beach,
remember.
on the beach, we had people come in this little beach house we had where they did a little performance for us on the beach. And that's when I saw one of our shorter athletes jump in the air higher than he was. I said, "My God, he jumped over his own head on one of the events he did there." I thought I was really, really impressed. We had a good time. We had a nice lunch together there. All the guys were able to show their best, and they were great. It was really cool, right on the beach of Malibu. It was wonderful.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And one of my earliest memories of you being around sport karate, obviously there was the time when I was already on the team and we met in Vegas and had brunch, and that was beautiful. We'll talk about that. But the my side of the story that I doubt that you'll remember the fact that I was even there because I wasn't on the team, was you came to the Lone Star Open, which was a relatively small tournament in Austin, Texas. This was probably 2012, I want to say it was. And that was that summer is when I would get on the team. But this was in the like late winter, kind of kickstarting our tournament season. And you came to this tournament, and you guys had a team member, Austin Crane, who is in my age division for the runoffs, our like semifinals to move on to the nighttime show. And Austin was a phenomenal competitor. I've got all the respect in the world for him. But I recognized that if I wanted to earn a spot on this team, that I was going to need to put my best foot forward against Austin and beat him a few times if I wanted to put on the same uniform as him. And I remember that's the matchup that I wanted, and that's the matchup that I got in that runoff. And you were sitting ringside, and I was like, "Oh man, if I can win this one, I'll show John Paul, and it'll be great." And then Austin beat me, of course. But I still, that was the first time I kind of came up, and I think shook your hand and got a picture with you, and just really left an impact on me. And then just continued to work my tail off, and then eventually get the opportunity to join the team a few months later. But so my question for you about all of that is, you've been able to attend tournaments here and there over the years. Just take us back, anything that stands out from watching the team in action, and any special memories or even special athletes that stand out that you just remember being top-notch people, top-notch performers.
Well, there was one I remember seeing there where we had two Chinese that couldn't even speak English, two little Chinese people on our team. And the one guy not only could jump higher than him, he could jump higher than me. I was amazed, like in his free X, what he was doing was like, how can any human being do that? That really stayed with me to see that some of these things that Bruce Lee did were real. They were real, not just in the movies. That was great. But I also like, and you had brought it up when you saw when Austin beat you. Every single person has been beat at one time or another. But those that succeed are those that say, hey, that's not a defeat. It's a learning experience. I just have to learn to be a little bit better. And of course, that's what you did. And you did very, very well, sir.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. And then, so moving on from that story, right? We talk about you being at tournaments, you kind of inspiring me in Texas, even though I came up short. And then ultimately, when I was on the team, was when we had the very special opportunity for you to attend the Martial Arts Super Show in Las Vegas. Of course, an event put on by Century Martial Arts, the same people that continue to be Team Paul Mitchell's apparel sponsors, in addition to obviously Paul Mitchell doing everything else for us and making this team possible. And then now making Sport Karate Zone possible, and even this podcast. So huge thank you to Mikey Dillard and all of our friends at Century Martial Arts for making all of this possible. But so you came out, gave an excellent keynote talk. But the highlight for all of us team members was we actually got to share a brunch with you and be able to just kind of all be in one room together. And you gave a speech to us that kind of rallied the troops and got us all ready to keep moving forward with the rest of the competition season from that point. But just any reflections on your experience then, and kind of the hospitality of Century bringing you in and being the keynote speaker, and then getting to spend some of those moments with the team that
Oh,
meant so
you
much
bet.
to us.
Always a pleasure to be part of your team, whether you're participating or not, and being there and talking about it, which I talk about it a lot. But and that was really evident. It was one of my other highlights of the industry here. A couple of years ago, I was at a location in Houston, Texas, when all the big masters came in. All your top people in martial arts, your super masters, all came in, or what you may call your eighth degree black belts, whatever you want. They were the best of the best of the best, red belts on. And they awarded me there a master's position. And they said, JP, a mastership isn't just about how good you are feeding with your hands, but the whole thing is about how confident you are and what you do for the planet and how you are part of everything. And JP, what you did, even though you're not a fighter in martial arts or an exhibitor, you supported a team and you were right there with them, and you believed in what we were doing, and you believed in giving back along the way. You, sir, are a master. And they made me a master, put me in the museum, which was kind of cool. I thought that was very nice. It was all the masters that were there that went ahead and did it, and they voted on it. And of course, Stephen was right there, Steve Babcock, just proud as can be. So was our entire team, and it made me very happy. Like I felt really part of them.
Of course, and certainly deserving of that. I mean what I said when I opened the show with, for all of our viewers, sport karate unequivocally would not be where it is today without your contribution, sir. Without Paul Mitchell doing what this team did over the better part of 40 years, and producing the greatest competitor of all time and a guy like Kevin Thompson, and everything that came in between. There's so many, there's countless stories from this team. And it's not just about the wins, but it's about the impact that the team has had. And it's
Oh,
not
the
an
impact.
exaggeration to say this sport has changed forever because of this gift that we have with Team Paul Mitchell.
But it's like where the team has been. That's a very good thing to bring up. And you're being very humble about it as being part of the team, but I won't be as humble as you. This team has won the majority of national championships. We have won more than anyone on the planet has ever won, and we're doing that constantly. Go team.
Thank you, sir. And a moment ago, you were talking about, in terms of impact and how important it is to do good for the world and to give back. And that's something that I think anybody that does 5 minutes of research on you will understand that you have done in abundance throughout your life and throughout your success. And so, one thing that I want to make sure that we have an opportunity to speak about is exactly what's on your T-shirt, and that is the Peace, Love, and Happiness Foundation. It's something that, speaking for the karate team, I will say that the karate team would love to do whatever we can do as athletes and as social media influencers to be able to help spread the message of peace, love, and happiness. So that's an open invitation for all things peace, love, and happiness related. The karate team wants to be a part of it, but also for the community and everybody watching. Can you tell us a little bit about what the foundation is all about and how can people get involved and help in some of those efforts?
Well, let me relate, first of all, the peace, love, and happiness to martial arts, because the end goal of what you want to achieve mentally and spiritually is you want to have peace in your life where you're at peace with yourself, full peace. You want to have love, love your brother, love one another, and you want to be happy in your life with everything that you're doing. So that kind of transports over to what martial arts is all about and what it does. I started the Peace, Love, and Happiness Foundation, oh gosh, officially back in 2010, because I kept on telling people peace, peace, love, and happiness. I thought, well, let's just start a foundation. And we did. And it was all about a family foundation. You cannot give any money to the Peace, Love, and Happiness Foundation because we will not take it. It's only a family foundation, meaning that all the money comes from me. It's called my immediate family, but it's really me that puts up all the money. And it was all done so my family could be with me and pick out different things to do to make the world a better place to live for the people and the environment than you could ever imagine. And that's what we do. We do everything from, oh my God, whether it's supporting someone like, for example, our great national karate team, or whether it's feeding 17,000 orphans whose parents died of AIDS in Africa, whether it's Grow Appalachia, where we took 7 states in Appalachia, wanting to teach them all how to garden themselves and feed themselves, whether it's the big giant homeless shelters we have built. For example, in Austin, little tiny homes where there'll be 2,000, now there's already almost 1,000 going in there, 2,000 homeless people living in their own little homes with auto shop, wood shop, metal shop, all kinds of art shops that they could do and have a job and make some money. There was a variety of things we do to make the world a better place to live. That's why the name of my book, which you could pre-order on Amazon, is Success Unshared is Failure. I think a lot to do with people even doing something good in life is when you do really well and you share some of it with those around you and you make it self-sufficient on their own, that all of a sudden you're making a big contribution, a little bit like paying a little bit of rent for being on the planet Earth. It makes you feel really, really good. So that's what the foundation's all about. And we are what they call a 503c foundation. It's a family foundation. We are into, God, I think last someone counted was 160 some odd different things that we support, but it's mainly children, people need food, those that are homeless, and we also just started 2 years ago taking care of those that are homeless with, shall we say, mental challenges, which a lot of them are, by having their own facility where they could have their own little house, and educators are teaching them in our skills center, which we built for them, how to do jobs that they could do. So I think almost 50% of all those people that are in our little place down there have jobs now. And we have at least 50 people there already, and they have jobs because there are certain jobs even they could do. So it's just doing a variety of things that leads to peace, love, and happiness for all.
Absolutely. Absolutely beautiful message. I love it. It's one of those things that just makes me so incredibly proud to represent this brand and to be connected with efforts like that in any way. And that's why I say, the karate team would wholeheartedly lean into to any efforts to help and serve those communities as well. And I love that it's not just about providing the resources. It's the classic, if you give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. If you teach him to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime. time, and you're giving these people in these very vulnerable situations the opportunity not just to feel better in that moment or to improve their quality of life for a week, but to really change the course of their life.
That is
And
correct.
that's truly
100%
powerful.
correct. How to give them a chance to be their ultimate. Exactly where people don't give them that chance. That's exactly what we do. You put it even better than I could.
Well, thank you, sir. And I think one of the best ways to close this out is that, really the reason that I started Sport Karate Zone, the reason that I started this podcast, is really to speak to young martial artists, right? And give them a way to follow the sport and to find, those role models that are the people on stage competing and setting a positive example. And of course, that is what we look to fill our Team Paul Mitchell martial arts team with is those role models for people to be looking up to. Assuredly, there are dozens, maybe even a couple of hundred of those little kids that are going to watch this podcast and start to understand some of the history and have their desire to one day represent Team Paul Mitchell, not just be about it being the best team, but it being a mission that they want to be a part of. And so the thing that I want to close with is what advice would you give to that young martial artist who wants more than anything to one day represent this team? What are the things that they should focus on to not just make them a great martial artist who's going to perform at a high level, but to make them the type of person that we're looking for to represent Team Paul Mitchell, to represent peace, love, and happiness, to represent this entire mission that we're trying to bring to the world, frankly?
Great. I could tell you that with just a couple of things, a little story that'll go along with it. Okay. And that is this: be kind, and no matter what you do, be prepared for a lot of rejection because you're going to lose some fights, but learn what you did wrong and keep getting better until you are there. Make sure the quality of your life and the quality of your sport are done at the highest degree of proficiency and, of course, of kindness. And a little story that tells you, the new karate people, even the existing ones, what you're all about and what we're all about. In the beginning, God created the planet Earth. He created an oyster. And he said, Oyster, I'm going to give you the perfect social, economic situation to live in. Similar to what a lot of young people are thinking today. They could stay at home. I'm going to give you a shell to live in. I'm going to put you to the bottom of the ocean and protect you from your enemies. If you want food, you just open your mouth and food rushes in. So you've got food, clothing, shelter, and care, all of it free to you. But you're not going to go anywhere, oyster. You're just going to kind of hang around there a little bit. Then God created the eagle. Like a lot of kids do today, they stay at home. They don't want a job yet. Who knows what? They're on the telephone, texting somebody or playing video games all day long. That's being an oyster. Now, God also created something called the eagle. When he created the eagle, he said, Eagle, you're to be a whole different type of species. Go build your own house. Try the top of a mountain. Try a tree. You want to eat? Go fly around and find some food. And that eagle flies through miles sometimes. And you're from the Northeast, wind, rain, snow, blizzards. I mean, still does it. But yet it's able to find enough food to be able to fill themselves up, and they're young. Now, what a lot of people are not aware of is that the eagle fails 60% of the time, maybe even 70% of the time. When it comes down, it's so big and cumbersome that the wild game feels it coming and gets away. But the eagle keeps on trying no matter how many times it failed to get the prey until it gets to eat as much as it wants. It's the strongest bird in the sky. It never gave up. However, the eagle, unlike the oyster, can go anywhere it wants to go. It made its way. A little bit like what our young people are doing in martial arts. They're taking the time, they're taking the energy to do something on their own, to achieve something, not just sit back and be fed and have a place to live and play games all day long. They're making something of their lives, and they're doing it in a great direction, and they're learning how to be a person, not what everybody else is trying to blend them in on TV or on the radio to be, because one side's to the left, one side's to the right. Which way do you want to go? Well, that's a bunch of bullshit. It's disconnecting people. To connect people in martial arts, we're eagles in martial arts. We talk to people, we talk to our friends, we talk to the opposite team, and we do nice things for other people. And we actually take action opposed to gimme, 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 we're going out there and doing. So hello to all the eagles out there. Be an eagle, not an oyster.
Excellent, excellent stuff. Ultimate wisdom. This is the perfect thing to kind of put a cap on the show. And what I want to close with personally is, I want to let the audience know because these are things that otherwise nobody would know about. But I want everybody to know how important Mr. DeJoria is to my journey, not only because of the inspiration that he gave me since I was a little kid and wanting to be on Paul Mitchell and being inspired by, watching Good Fortune, which that was released kind of in the prime of my competitive career when I was already representing Paul Mitchell. But it validated so much of what this team stands for, and it guided the later years of my career. But beyond all of that, for everybody watching, this is a man who, even though he didn't have to, even though we had only met the couple of times, took the time to write what was a brilliantly written letter of recommendation to help me get into medical school. And now here I am, a neurosurgery resident, and who's to
Amazing.
say maybe I'm not getting to do brain surgery on a random Tuesday, if it's not for, Mr. DeJoria and his generosity, and just taking the time to help me out, simply because I was somebody that believed in his team and everything that he represents. And that's just the type of person that Mr. DeJoria is, and the type of person that we should all strive to be. And so, sir, I just want to thank you personally and directly for that and for everything that you've done for me to help me achieve some of these things that I've been so blessed to get to experience.
That makes me very happy. Thank you very, very much. Peace, love, and happiness to you and all your watchers. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And so, for everybody that got to enjoy this, this is by far the podcast that you got to put on repeat out of all the podcasts that we've done. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm your host, Jackson Rudolph. This has been episode 139 of the Jackson Rudolph podcast, our most special yet. And I'll see you next time.